Um, hey, we're here with Master Joe. It's Monday afternoon. I've got a nice caffeinated beverage here. Thank you, Master Joe, for taking some time.
Pleasure.
So what I've done is I've started this Keep Rising pod, and it came out of a lot of what transpired during COVID. I had been working in a corporate space, in sales, high intensity, and under the delusion that I had been operating as I should be, which was being responsible for my family, taking care of what I'm supposed to do, bring home money, and then spend time with them, and everything. Cover it all off, checklist. And only when COVID, and actually 2 or 3 weeks before COVID was officially in New York, I got laid off from my job.
Oh, wow.
And it was a byproduct of acquisitions having occurred, and essentially I was rendered redundant. And I took it very personally.
Sure.
I took it real personal. And I think it may have been a spillover of just being a sales guy, taking it personally. So being driven.
Exactly.
You know, it's not, it's never personal, it's all business. But I wasn't prepared to cope with what was about to happen. And then COVID happened concurrently.
Yeah.
I'm like 2 weeks, I had a severance plan. And so I had maybe a few months where I didn't have to worry about the actual financial side of it. So I gave myself a couple of weeks to kind of like breathe and kind of learn how to get over some of the frustration and maybe even anger. And then COVID happened, suddenly perspective. And now you're like, wait a second, I'm looking for a job in a really, really crazy time.
Yeah.
So I leaned into social media like I never did.
Sure.
All right. I'm very much of the dinosaur age where it's like go outside, play. My kids didn't have devices. But I leaned into it and started finding a lot of really rich content where people were speaking words that I needed to hear, and it wasn't soft words. It was like when you referred to yourself being described as mean by Rafi. I was getting that kind of. I found content like that, and I realized that I was like, if this guy met me, he would lean right. I could imagine how disgusted he would be with me with my pity party.
Yeah.
And it may have only been a couple of weeks, but 2 weeks is too long.
Listen, I could totally relate to what you're saying. When COVID hit, my business has hit probably at that point the most successful I've been in almost, I'm trying to do some math right now, 9 years. So 9 years of hustle. I started from nothing, building this place to 400 students. All of a sudden, the lights are off. I can't even go inside my place anymore because of the mandates that were set and everything.
Right.
So my father always taught me, you get two options in life. The literal translation, it's a little rough from Italian, but it basically means you adapt or you die. You get this or this. So what are you gonna do now? Are you going to sit home and cry that you're not allowed to go back into your school? No. And that first week COVID hit, I lost 75% of my business. Disappeared. Gone. Now I'm running a business with no contracts. People are not obligated to stay with me. Everything is month to month. So after losing that, I was like, wow, what do I do? I was like, I got to figure something out. I took my basement and I converted it into my studio, and I started teaching classes via Zoom. 9 months via Zoom in the basement of my house. I turned it into a studio. And little by little, that 75% I lost, started making it. Then I opened after 9 months, and we're talking, I'm paying rent this whole time. Rent, utilities, bills. I'm basically paying for a space that's empty. My landlord didn't give me a break. Right. Give me a tiny little break, not much. Right. What am I going to do? I'm going to cry. I'm going to shut my doors. The bills were still coming. The bills weren't stopping. So you have to adapt. Sometimes you need that wake-up call. It's like I said, you adapt or you die. I adapted. Now, all this time later, I'm busier than I ever been. But if I didn't have that drive, I didn't have that hustle, what was I going to do? I was going to sit down and cry? Right. Oh, woe is me, I don't have a school anymore. No.
Right.
No, you got to do what you got to do. And I taught in that basement. 9 months. My wife and kids upstairs. I broke a ceiling tile with my head, teaching kids how to do a jumping front kick. Next thing you know, boom, ceiling tiles all over my head. You make it work.
Right.
Like I said, it's this or nothing.
Yeah.
You know, so that, for all the negativity that COVID brought out, you got to be able to take that negative and turn it to a positive.
Right.
My work ethic definitely got stronger because of it. Things that used to bother me before don't bother me anymore because of what happened.
Yeah.
You know, so you're able to move forward. And you know, I'm running into all these other people, and they're like, that are in my industry, they're like, man, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? I was like, you mean how I did it? You make it work.
Right.
You make it work. How'd you do it, man? People didn't sign contracts with you because all these other places, they made it, and I understand why. I don't knock them.
Sure.
They made their business through people who kept paying, which is great. You know, you got to support, you know, the mom and pops out there. But mine was a little different, that there was no obligation, but the people were still paying, even via the Zoom, because they understood and they knew that it was going to end eventually.
Right.
There was light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
Now, I'm busier than ever.
So what started as an individual journey turned into a massive opportunity for me to actually embrace my kids that are getting older.
Sure.
And I recognize watching them go to school remotely.
Yes.
And then I concurrently started my own business, working in the same space with my kids, sharing walls where, you know, on one side of the wall is one kid, on the other side of the wall is another kid. They can't hear their classes, they have privacy. I have to be very mindful of my phone calls, but I'm listening to them engage with their classes. Now, my middle one was in first grade and the older one was in second grade. And then COVID happens. And like, you know, those are formidable years.
Sure.
I remember my first grade teacher, my second grade teacher.
Yeah.
I remember my buddy. We had so much fun. School was so fun. That's where you learn to love teachers and learn to learn. Love to learn. And I realized how far away I was as the parent that they need me to be, because I would be working these long hours, come home, I'd see them for a fraction of a moment. See them maybe before bedtime if I got lucky enough. They catch me up as quickly as they can, as quick as a kindergarten and a first grader could, first and second grader could.
I could totally relate to that.
And I thought and then on weekends, my wife would be working back in the day, and I would take them everywhere, do what I have to do. The whole day it's with me, and like, you know, I was teaching them responsibility, like, you know, like little things, like, okay, you know, like they didn't drink soda, and then my older one turned 7. We had a 7-Up. We had a moment. We're like, all right, and like, you know. But not because soda's bad. It's just like, hey, you know, stay away from caffeine. I was like teaching them. And I was so proud of myself deep down. I was like, oh, I'm this hardworking guy, and I spend time with my kids, and I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing my parents proud. I got my parents nearby, all this other stuff. And I realized, I was like, wow, man, I'm delusional. These kids don't need the parent I think I'm being. They need they're so much advanced than I thought. They were so much more advanced than I was giving them credit for. And so whatever I was doing was like keeping them back. I needed to like push them. So I saw this first, and I was like, I need to work from home. I need to be more with my kids for the next 5 to 7 years and be viable. Now, how do I make that happen? Oh, yeah, make my business grow. So now what you said, it's either this or this. Uday, if you're going to go back in the corporate world, get ready to pay what that requires.
Sure.
Or make this thing grow and let it grow and let it grow. So I was leaning into content. And I started realizing that a lot of the polished content, it connected with me because I got to meet people in my travels. Like they reminded me of real people. But if I didn't have that real connection, then they're just these talking heads, and it doesn't connect. But I would find, and like fast forward to when, you know, I come to F45, I had sent Ty, the older brother, a message. He had been trying to get me in. I'd walked by a couple of times. I walked in. I said, hey, I'm interested. And, you know, we went back and forth. We missed a couple of appointments. Didn't work out. They were busy trying to deal with COVID. And they didn't follow up with me. And then they realized, they hadn't followed up with a few people. They sorry for the long delay.
Sure.
And it caught me on a day where I was up at 3 a.m, couldn't sleep. I was bawling my eyes out for no reason. And I literally responded to his message that he had sent earlier that day. And I was like, to be honest with you, I'll show you this message afterwards. I have a copy of it because I never forget. For some reason or no reason or a whole bunch of reasons, I was a complete emotional, spiritual, physical mess. And he's like, well, let's get you in. And then boom, Cinco de Mayo. It was like right Cinco de Mayo, day after, whatever it was.
That's my birthday.
Really? Wow, man. So there was a cathartic energy. And me going into that first class, the first thing Ty tells me is like, don't overdo it. First thing he tells me.
Yeah.
I think he saw because I'm a very intense guy.
Sure.
All right. Whatever you see
I
today.
say the same thing to all my adult students.
Yeah, like they see like.
I tell them all, be humble in your abilities. If you could kick and punch like me, I give you my keys today. That's what I tell them all.
So he tells me, he's like, take your time, don't do anything too much. And then he's like, I'm like, yeah, I had the week trial. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna come in every day. He said, well, why don't you just see how you feel tomorrow? This is Ty. He's not saying anything other than, why don't you see how you feel tomorrow? Well, I felt real sore, as you can imagine, because I went hard.
Of course.
And I was sore. I hadn't done a squat. I wasn't doing Fast forward 2 days. So I skipped 2 days and I went in the 4th day. And the recovery on the 4th day was amazing.
Sure.
Because I rested, I ate. I was already eating right now. And then what has started is I haven't missed, other than me being away out of town, I haven't missed any classes other than 1 or 2 just for rest. I don't miss classes. I show up. I literally use that content. That stuff like show up.
Yeah.
Do the work. Don't worry about the result. Like put it all together.
Sure.
And I put it into my workout. And whether I feel like it or I don't feel like it. I remember partying with my buddies until like 2 a.m. And I was like, I got gym at 6:15, guys, so I'm headed home. Yeah. And they're like, what? Yeah. And so one of my buddies came with me. And I got him a trial. He did a class with me. Yeah. And then we carried on. Like, it was the most insane thing. They were like, I'm like, dude, I'm committed.
Sure.
I'm not negotiating with myself.
Because now the workout, as much physical, it's now mental.
Exactly. And so this all made me realize that me not coping with losing my job was largely because of an absence of substance in me.
Sure.
Whatever I was working because my dad taught me how to work hard. Okay, good job, Uday. You're working hard. But there's nothing behind that. Like, find your own inner reason to work hard.
For sure.
For yourself, make it selfish, make it greedy. But you got to be tied to something. Because if someone takes that thing you're working hard on away, where are you going to put that energy?
Sure.
And I started thinking long and hard about doing everything I'm doing, but now doing it with the right mindset. And now physical fitness training became my way of managing mental health strength.
Oh, for sure.
Or gaining mental health. I never put those two together. It sounds really insane, but...
No, it's a balance. You have to have a balance.
And so this is the part, because the physical side is more difficult for me, because let's just say I have all these mitigating circumstances. I'm a little older. I'm distracted. I'm already got bad habits. I got to unlearn. So that's the challenge. So that's the thing I'm committed to, that I'm not going to give up. And the spiritual side, which is engaging with people, getting to know people, learning their story, that part's easy for me.
Sure.
But now, because I can work hard, I can go to the gym, and I know what that next rep feeling feels like when they say one more rep, and you're like, you think you can't do it, and you take that deep breath, and you're like, damn, I did 3 more reps. Yeah. When I thought I couldn't do more. Sometimes, like, I'm not really good with the squats when you have the barbells like this. All right, for whatever reason, maybe I have like alligator arms or something. So I'll always pick up a lighter weight, and then Takia will come by and she'll just look at me, and I'm like, she'll just shame you into like, and I do it, and I'll do a whole 40 seconds, 50 seconds, I'll do it. And so it's just that presence. So like incorporating that physical presence, and now my own mind looks at me. And I can look at the weight, and I can say, you can do better than that.
Sure.
And so I am pushing my own standard now. And my kids are seeing me learn how to work hard again. Learn how to be inspired again. And I tell them, you in your life are going to remember this more than you'll remember anything I told you.
Sure.
You'll see that like your dad in his 40s figured out how to do things better. Yeah. That means you could always reset. You can always do it better.
For sure.
And so,
because at the end of the day, you're the leader. And like I tell all my students next door, It's actually written on my wall when you walk in.
I saw that.
A leader leads by example. What better example than a dad for his children?
So that's
my kids see that as well.
And so when I saw you come to the gym, it planted a seed in my mind.
Yeah.
I wanted to sit down with you and talk to you.
Yeah.
And this is like kind of cool because like I'm learning how. I've always talked to people. My entire network of personal friends, associates, acquaintances. It's literally like I just love hearing stories. And my dad came from India in 1971, and he's got a bunch of stories. My dad was a storyteller. He told me a bunch of things, taught me by telling stories.
Yeah.
And his friends are storytellers. So it's just like I've never been not around stories. And COVID was a time when there was a lot of tragedy and there was a lot of hardship. But the storytellers that were already capable before COVID, like yourself, like you were already built.
Sure.
You had already established yourself. You had your business running, and psychologically, and you have incredible pedigree, which I definitely want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
You did it because you knew you could. You had faith in yourself before the tragedy even came, and the next circumstance that comes, you're built for it, whether or not you have the experience or not, but you have the mental fortitude. And those are the storytellers that, if you think about the ancient Greeks, ancient Romans, the only storytellers whose stories have made it this far were the ones that persisted, that endured. Like the ones that couldn't hang, their stories never got told. We'll never hear from them. And so we just have to do our part in this storytelling era to bring real, honest conversation about just what is it? Like, what is it that you're doing, that you live your greatest life, that allows you to keep rising? And so it came up with the Keep Rising pod. And I needed to break out of the anxiety that built inside me, where I had put so much focus on my internal development, I forgot how to have a conversation. I used to have conversations with people without even thinking.
Sure.
And COVID, I became very secluded, very reclusive. I only had conversations with my kids, and my business was such that I was able to insulate myself and not have to talk to so many people. Like I steered my business toward commercial opportunities where a lot of it was email overseas.
Sure.
I was an accident. I was like, man, I don't want to talk to anyone. I was too busy building myself. I was like, man, I got to get myself back into having a real conversation. Now that we're back. We're back, and Uday is less prepared to talk to people now. I'm glad I can go to a mountain and meditate maybe, but I can't go on a subway right now and be like, I could strike up a conversation back in the day, but now I'm like, So I was like, let me just have conversations with people and use this as a way to do two things. Introduce people in my network to each other, just talk about what you celebrate and what you're proud about, and your own personal story. But then on top of that, whatever it is that you're dealing with, nothing is unfathomable. We can imagine our worst nightmare, and we can imagine our paradise. And all of it is doable. All of it is achievable. It's all about perspective. And that's what saved me. I got lucky that I had the perspective and the discerning ability to find content that was going to feed what I was missing. But if I'm 15 years younger and I'm brought up in a different generation, maybe I tap into something that just makes me feel worse. Sure. And suddenly the way the system is set up, whatever you feed yourself, you're going to get more of it.
Exactly.
So I'm talking about like this social media as if it's like this esoteric idea. I am old. I am old for like my kids. They're built for this, and I have a 2-year-old at home. So I have a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old. My 2-year-old is gonna be more advanced than those two older kids. And so it's moving too quick, and not knowing how to navigate and steer. So this all became like an exercise in how do we survive and use social media for the best possible reasons.
Exactly.
And then the only way to do it is to be a content creator, and even if it's a drop in the ocean, but it's going to be a drop of productive, positive content.
That's the key, and I completely understand that, because whenever you look at my social media, we're all human beings. We all have our bad days, but you know something? I don't need the world to see it. We all have our moments that people upset us, but I don't need the world to see it. But I do want the world to see a beautiful class that I'm teaching, a nice story I'm telling of my father, my family, my kids. Because unfortunately, negativity is contagious. But you know what? We need to make positivity more contagious. You know, so when I go on my social media and I see this person venting and upset day in and day out, I kind of block it. I don't need that in my life. Some people might call it unrealistic, but you know what? This is my reality. Positivity feeds positivity. I want to, and my father always taught me, associate yourself around like-minded individuals.
Right.
You know, this man, barely a third grade education, came from the old country in Italy. You know,
where in Italy is he from?
Sicily. We're Sicilian. Yeah, and you know, third grade education, work ethic beyond belief. But what he taught me in life, you would think the man had a PhD. You know, he understood real stuff. He understood street. He understood, you know, people. So he would tell me things, you know, surround yourself around like-minded individuals. That's the only way you're going to grow. Keep your circle small. Don't keep it big. Have lots of acquaintances, but count your true friends on one hand with fingers to spare. This is what he taught me. So even on social media, what we're talking about right now, I want my feed to be positive. Believe me, I feel for you if you're having a nice day and a bad day. And if you're having a bad day, you need someone to speak to, I'll be there for you.
Yeah.
You need help, I'll be there. But you don't, I disagree with making the world see that. Let the world, there is positivity out there. And social media, unfortunately, like, we could get into this turns into a rabbit hole. We could talk about the media. It's all negativity.
Yeah.
I don't like looking at the news. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, same here. We turned it off on COVID.
I don't exactly.
Kids didn't need to know how many people were dying.
No, I don't.
It was harsh.
I don't. It is. Is it reality? Yes. Do we need to know reality? Yes. Should we hide that reality? No, we shouldn't. But we can't dwell upon it.
Right.
Because that's not what's negativity is not going to make us grow.
Right.
It's not going to make us better people. Positivity will, and that's what we need to focus and concentrate on. So yeah, my social media, I highlight, you know, my business. I highlight my kids, and obviously I highlight, you know, the greatest teacher in my life, my father.
So tell me a little bit about your dad, and I know there was a really nice documentary.
Yes.
That was produced. So I'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about your dad. Just
real simple. You know, my dad came here like many immigrants from the other side. He came here in 1969. You know, $1 and a dream, right? That's it. Came from the other side, not much money in his pocket. Started working hard from the moment he got here, working hard for his family, and then my father, growing up, you figure that generation in the late 60s, early 70s, you know, we go into the martial arts. It's like every generation had like its thing. Back then, it was all about Bruce Lee. All these guys, you know, watching Kung Fu theater, it's all about Bruce Lee. Even on the other side, even in Italy, people who knew who Bruce Lee was. So my father was always intrigued by it. So on a whim, by accident, you know, he saw my grandmaster, Moon Sun Lee. He was building a school in Astoria. The man was laying tiles. My dad couldn't speak English. This man couldn't speak English. But I don't know, some way, somehow, he realized that this was going to be a Taekwondo school. And next thing you knew, my father was his first student, first black belt, and that's where his martial arts journey came from. You know, my father took it and it became a passion. It became, you know, a huge part of his life, a huge part of who he was as a person. So from when I was born, it's always been there, the martial arts. You know, I used to, you know, it was almost like growing up, I had a different type of discipline, a different type of work ethic, you know, through martial arts. And it just became me who I was, and I like I said in the documentary, I knew from a young age that I wanted to make this my life. Was it easy? No, it wasn't easy. Man, it was hard. Man, being, Master Joe's son, it wasn't easy. There was a nice period that I wanted to quit every single day. Every day I wanted to quit. I mean, my father can't do this anymore. We're in 2022, but discipline was different back then. I would be getting hit with a bamboo stick. Not because I was goofing off, but because I wasn't trying hard enough. And my father knew my potential. So we would get punished for that. And I would hate it. But then it clicked. That day I got my black belt, April 1st, 1994. I never forget. I got my black belt, and my grandmaster's tying my belt around my waist, and I look over to my side, and my father's crying. First time in my life I ever saw the man cry. And at that point it clicked. I was like, oh my God, now I understood why he was so tough on me. Because I made it. And from that point on, I took it to another level. It just the martial arts for me, it's made me who I am. It's what I want to project to all my students. Those old teachings. Granted, like I said, I can't discipline them that way anymore. Right. Times have changed and we have to adapt. But
adapt or die, right?
Exactly. But respect is respect, discipline is discipline. And if I could instill that in my students, it makes me a better teacher. But my mentality is, when I open the doors every single day, I'm not Master Joe. I'm just Joe. Right. I'm always a student first. So now we talk about F45 or me working out at the powerhouse. I walk in as a student, and it's a great feeling, to be a student. Because that's how I grow as an individual. Humility is one of the tenets of Taekwondo. We have to be humble in ourselves. I don't approach that I know everything. I don't. Knowledge is power. I learn from F45 and I take it into my school. I learn from the other gym and I take it into my school. We're constantly evolving, and that's what makes us better people, and that's what makes me a better teacher. So when I'm at F45 and I look at Frank and I tell Frank, like, man, if you see me going down, man, you better get on me. You better get on me. Don't let me quit. And he's like, yeah, Joe, I got you. And I'm just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because the way I see a workout is I have to conquer that workout. That's the competitor in me. No workout is gonna beat me. Much like life. COVID wasn't gonna beat me. Can't let that beat me. I can't let that get in the way of my dreams and my aspirations. Right. People, they saw that documentary and they say, oh my God, you've accomplished so much. And I look back at them, I go, I've only just started. So 12 years in, I tell them, I've just started. There's so much more I want to accomplish. And that's the way I take each day, and that's the way I take each workout. I always want to better myself. We're getting older, man. I'm 42. I don't recover as quick as I used to.
No, I hear you.
But I'm still, that mindset is still there.
Sure.
I'm gonna give everything I got.
Well, something you talked about, which is discipline, which you said it before I could even bring it up. In this day and age, we are limited in how we can deploy discipline, lessons of discipline. Mm-hmm. When you were a kid and you were being disciplined, was there something intrinsic within you that allowed you to absorb that, handle that, and not it break you?
It was obviously I feel when it comes to discipline, a lot of times discipline is cultural. I never saw anything wrong with it. The occasional, smack in the butt, so to say.
Sure.
My mom also Sicilian, Italian, old-fashioned, the wooden spoon was used many times. It was, I still to this day, and this is my personal opinion, some people disagree with me, but it's okay, because I'm of that, not like I feel is a big wrong in society today, not to stray off the topic, but I feel like a big problem today is people don't know how to agree to disagree. We could be of different opinions, but you know what? I respect you. And I respect your opinion, just like I want my opinion respected. I don't feel that form of discipline of the physical nature, there was anything wrong with it, because I knew, even as a kid, it was done with love. When my father would hit me upside my butt with that bamboo stick, it was done with love, because he wanted me to be a better person. People might not have that opinion, and you know what? God bless you, I respect it. But that made me grow. Because like I bring up that story, that day I got my black belt, afterwards, my father never hit me with the stick in my butt again. Because now I came into class, I was the hardest worker. I kind of flipped the script on him. I was like, you know what? I'm never going to give you the chance to hit me again, because I'm going to be the best one in class.
Yeah.
He found other ways to use the stick,
Yeah.
But it wasn't out of discipline. It wasn't out of, because I did something wrong. It wasn't out of, me being disrespectful as a kid. No, it taught me, wow, you know what? I don't want to get hit again. I don't want to get yelled at again. I don't want to be embarrassed again. I'm going to be the best person I could be. I'm going to be the hardest worker in the room. And that discipline made me, shaped me into who I am through physical and mental. And yes, 100%, a little bit of pain.
Yeah.
And that bamboo stick hurt.
Yeah.
That broomstick hurt. That wooden spoon hurt.
Oh yeah.
I used to think my mom's shoe had like radar on it. I could run away from it. That thing still hit me. It was.
Moms have impeccable aim.
Oh my God.
They're efficient.
But
they don't want to run after you, so they'll get you.
Yeah, man. But you know what? I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
Can I do it today? No. Times have obviously changed.
Yeah.
Just like when I opened my school in 2010, my father came up to me and said, Joe, God bless you. I can never teach kids the way you do. Because my father used to teach with that stick in his hand. Right. It was a different time.
So how do you you don't have to reveal any secrets,
yeah.
But how are you handling the necessary discipline that the kids need, because this itself is a lifestyle?
Yeah.
Taekwondo.
It has to be my demeanor, my presence, the way I look at someone, the way I look at a child. They have to know, parents come up to me all the time and they say, Master Joe, how come my child listens to you so well, but then at home, I'm like, you know what? I hate to say this, because I don't take any crap, so to say, from your child. I don't give that child the chance to get. I'm loving. Kids love me, but I don't give them a chance to get too comfortable. Back then, it was a little easier because, like I said, back in the early 80s, even very, very early 90s, you could use a little slap and it was acceptable. Today it's not, and it's okay. So instead of going through the front door, I go through the back door.
Yeah.
My demeanor is everything. My voice, my presence, the way I stand up in front of a room. The joke inside my school is, parents use my name at home like Santa Claus. The only difference is Santa only works in December. Master Joe works 12 months a year. They're like, parents tell me all the time, Master Joe, we mention your name at home, and our kid is like, oh, no, don't tell Master Joe I did that. And it kind of makes me laugh inside, because I say to myself, holy cow, just my presence made that happen. And it takes a lot of work to make that presence happen. Whereas back then, my father took that stick and whack.
So you can't be you can't be hitting 100. There's got to be there's got to be in 9 years. There's got to be a couple of cases where nothing you're doing is registering with a student.
Few and far between. I'll be very honest with you, and that's not that comment I just made. Few and far between. It's not an ego thing. It's not a.
Yeah.
I think I'm God's gift to instruction. No. Not by no means. But I've been lucky, and this goes to how I run my business. Why I'm able to make such an impact and get the children to listen to me. You walk into most 95 to 100% of martial arts schools, because what is Taekwondo, Karate, MMA, Jiu-Jitsu, you have to sign a contract to be there. And I understand it from a business standpoint, the commitment, and places sell it as such. I don't. No one signs a contract. So what happens? People are in my school because they want to be there. They're not forced. Parents are not taking their little kid by the ear saying, you're going to Master Joe because you know what? Man, I'm paying 12 months. You better go. There is none of that conversation. Kids and adults are in my school because they want to be there. So now, if they want to be there, there's one chief and lots of Indians. There's one leader and lots of followers. It's my rules, and that is it. And my rules are not of a dictator. No. It's not in that, I'm not saying that in that way. It's the major rule is respect.
Yeah.
And kids learn that quick.
Right.
No, you can't goof around in my class. This is not a playground. You are coming here to learn. And the first step of learning, especially in a young child, because I take kids starting at 3, especially in a young child, is through respect. It is the yes sir, the no sir, the thank you sir. Go say thank you to mommy, go say thank you to daddy. Yes, I want you to bow to mommy. Yes, when you come in here, you bow, you say hello sir. These little things, forget the kicking and punching. The kicking and punching is nothing. It's the respect, it's the discipline, starting at a young age. And that's when kids will grow. The kicking and punching comes later. That's the easy part. It's easy for me to take someone and teach them how to kick and punch. But we have to establish the moment they come inside my school, no, you are going to respect me. And I'm going to show you respect. How am I going to show you respect? I'm going to teach you the right way. That's the given. It's not all take. I have to give as much to the kids as they give back to me. But my way of giving it is through learning proper martial arts. Making these kids not only good kids in my school, but good kids outside. And that's also a lesson for the parents. And this is when I go back to the parents and when they say to me, how come my kid listens to you and not to me? Well, you know what? Maybe, and I'm honest with parents, maybe you need to get your head out of your phone while I'm teaching class. And you know what? Pay attention to what I'm telling your kids. And you know what? Take that conversation to the car when you're going home. So we're all on the same page. You can't expect me to make a miracle 3 hours a week, because my class is 45 minutes to an hour. Some of my younger kids, it's a half hour. You can't expect me to make a miracle. We all got to be on the same page. So the lessons I'm teaching the children is also a lesson for the parent. When you get in the car with that child, tell them what just went on in class. Bring that home. Tell them, Master Joe said, if you don't get good grades in school, we can't go up in belt. So let's focus, let's study. Let's all get on the same page. Yeah. And that's how we grow. Like I said, from the beginning of this conversation, positivity spreads.
Right.
And we all have to be on that same page. If there's a disconnect, if I'm disciplining a kid for whatever it is, whether it's about their health, whether it's about their work ethic, whether it's, if I'm disciplining your child, let's say from a health standpoint, they take my class and you go get them a bacon cheeseburger and a Coke afterwards, what did I just accomplish? you just negated everything I just taught that child. You know, if I'm teaching that child about thank you, sir, and thank you, ma'am, and showing respect, but then you give them something and they don't say thank you, they don't appreciate it, what good am I doing?
Right.
So it's a lesson for everyone.
Right.
Everyone. And
so your older students, adults included, I'm imagining
Yeah.
myself taking one of your classes. I can't see how I can't come away with lessons. The older ones must be coming away with
100%. 100%.
increased discipline.
Yes.
You
As-
get
as-
lazy
as
as
a work-
you get older.
Listen,
Things get easier, things get comfortable.
100%. But you know what? These people walk in, and this is why I'm very big on working with my students. I don't believe in teaching something I can't do. So when my adults are in my room now, not the children see it, but the adults see it on another level. My adults are like, this guy's not just talking the talk, he's actually walking it. This kick he just showed me, he did it, no problem. This move he just told me to do, he does it, no problem. You know, this sparring technique he's teaching, he does it, no problem, because man, this guy's on the national team for his age. They see it. Like I said, a leader leads by example. That's why I'm so dedicated to my craft. That's what drives me, man, to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and go to F45.
Right.
That's what drives me. Come on, man, it's getting cold now. You want to get out of bed?
No, absolutely.
I don't want to get out of bed.
So I think
I'm human. I don't want to get out. I want to stay snuggled in the sheets. But I say to myself, no. We got to seize the moment. We got to lead by example. That cardio workout on Wednesday morning is going to give me the energy at my 8 o'clock class that I've already sat in my school for 12 hours.
Right.
Is going to give me the energy to sweat with my adults and be like, man, that was awesome. I'm going back.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I'm going back. You have to lead by example. So I have to take that extra when I'm not in class and better myself. Like I said, yes, I have the title in my school and I've gained the respect of Master Joe and everyone is bowing to me, showing me respect, and I show respect back. But I'm also Joe.
Right.
I'm also Joe Lupo Jr. I'm also a student. I'm always a student before I'm the teacher.
Did you experiment with other forms of martial arts as you were growing up?
100%.
Did you find any that you enjoyed more than Taekwondo?
Not more, because to be honest with you, I've dedicated so much time to Taekwondo, especially with owning the business. You know, but there was a period of time when I first opened the school in Whitestone in 2010 that I wasn't so busy, that I didn't have so many students, that I did take a liking to judo. And I loved it. But I'm also of the mindset that if I can't put 100% into something, I don't like to put anything at all.
Right.
I don't like to, excuse the language, I don't like to half-ass anything.
Sure.
If I do something, it's got to be 100%. And that's why it's been very difficult for me to venture into other martial arts, because knowledge is power at the end of the day. The more you know, the better. But me, where I stand as Taekwondo being a lifestyle, Taekwondo being a business, it's very hard for me to dedicate time to another art. But I love all martial arts. And I get the question all the time in my school, what's the best martial art? And I tell them always, they're all good. Because the root to every martial art, again, goes back to discipline, goes back to respect. And I always make the analogy, martial arts is like food. You know, Italians, we have pasta. You know, you go to another country, they have rice. You go to another country, they cook their steak this way. You go to another country, they make their fish this way. They might add these kind of spices. We'll use extra virgin olive oil. They'll use this. They use... At the end of the day, it's all good for you. Food is all healthy when done the right way. Much like martial arts. All aspects of martial arts are good for you when it's taught the right way. When the foundation, your initial class as walking into that martial arts school, that foundation has to be set upon respect,
Right.
has to be set upon discipline. Again, life.
So for the likes of us, I would say that Karate Kid was my first introduction to Taekwondo, to martial arts.
Bro, you just stopped me mid-go because I started Taekwondo when I was 3. 1984, the Karate Kid comes out. Man, I was Daniel's son. I had that bandana.
Sure.
I had the action figure with the chopping motion. You know, again, this is what I say about the martial arts. There's always a generation. When my father started, Bruce Lee. When I was doing it, the Karate Kid. I was doing the crane kick. I was standing up outside on a little pillar in front of my house doing a jumping front kick with the crane motion. That was me. You know, as the years went and I saw it in my father's school, every kid that walked in wanted to be a Ninja Turtle. Every single one wanted to be a Ninja Turtle. And now I'm of the age that I'm starting to teach class. All these kids are talking about Dragon Ball Z. All these kids are talking about this. And then, you know, sprinkle in there in the mix. Man, I wanted to be Jean-Claude Van Damme at one point, man. I was trying to do splits.
Sure.
I wanted to be the muscles from Brussels, you know? And it goes on. And there's always a generation.
Yeah.
You know, now, I get kids that sign up to this day. You know, I saw Cobra Kai. You know, there's always something. There's always something related to martial arts that intrigues a kid that wants to be in there. You know, a kid saw an MMA fight or saw this and they want to learn. I think it's great.
Yeah,
There's
anything,
always
right?
some-
Anything that puts them on that track.
100%.
So that
Anything
leads-
that influences that.
That leads me to the MMA. When you said MMA, you have so many different forms represented by different fighters based on where they're from.
Yes.
And they're able to incorporate that with other fighting techniques. Ultimately, it's a huge athletic showdown. And,
Sure.
and you see that this is what's being promoted, physical fitness. Are you a fan of MMA? Do you have a favorite fighter? Do you have a favorite anything?
I have mixed opinion on it. They're all incredible athletes. For them to make it to that stage, the amount of sacrifice they've had to make is incredible. It's surreal. These guys have dedicated their life to their craft, and anyone should respect that. The thing I don't like is, I guess much like many things in life, you know, many of the critics had never put on a pair of gloves before. And that's wrong. You know, just to make it to that point. There's a lot of guys who have worked so hard that never even made it to that point. You know, who are you to criticize them if you've never done it before? How are you going to criticize an Olympic swimmer if you never jumped in the pool? That's one of my gripes about it. But unfortunately, it's society, and, you know, there's critics with everything. So I don't like that. I don't like hearing that kind of stuff, because I know and I've seen firsthand the amount of hard work these guys have done.
Yeah.
But then I don't like it because it has the word martial arts. And a lot of it has become promotion through negativity to sell tickets. And I get that as a business standpoint. But I don't like the fact that they use the word martial arts. You know what I mean? Because that goes against what martial arts is. So now you bring up who was a favorite fighter I had growing up, and I love George St. Pierre. I love watching early Anderson Silva, because these were guys that stepped into that cage, that octagon, and bowed. These are guys that didn't need to trash talk to sell a fight. You know, these are guys that kept the martial arts in mixed martial arts. You know, you take a guy like George St. Pierre, Kyokushin Karate black belt. Then moved on to wrestling. Then jiu-jitsu. Then, Anderson Silva. A lot of people don't realize Anderson Silva started with Taekwondo. Then moved into Muay Thai, moved into jiu-jitsu. They did it the right way. And they never lost the martial art aspect of it.
Right.
Where I see, and like I said, I don't knock anyone.
Right.
I see a lot of guys that are phenomenal athletes that I just feel they don't need to be a lightning rod, or they don't need to be negative. They don't need to trash talk to show their talents. But
So George St. Pierre.
But unfortunately, that's what sells. And like we spoke about the media earlier.
Yeah.
If the media was always positive, I don't think anybody would ever watch it.
True. Yeah.
The negativity is what sells, and that's a big problem with society.
George St. Pierre actually is a great example of. He has this well-documented story of how he was bullied as a kid, right? And he overcame that, and this is one example of how this guy took ownership over his own circumstances, and he was no longer going to be bullied. But he preserved his compassion.
Sure.
And it was the opponents that always were trash talking George.
Always.
And they were
Always.
trying to get him to react because they knew if they could elicit anything from him, it was going to be monumental.
Yeah.
It was going to be great tickets.
Yeah.
Great for marketing.
Exactly.
But he never fell for it.
No, he never did. And this is why many times, I would watch the fight from a different perspective. There were many times George St. Pierre was not the most exciting person to watch. But as a martial artist, you had to respect him. Because like you said, he didn't let, let's take for instance, the Nate Diaz's of the world alter his fight plan. He didn't let other opponents he had alter him. You knew what George St. Pierre was going to do. You knew he was going to take you down. You knew what he was going to do. You knew what he was superior at. And he still did it. He still did it.
Right.
And he won.
Yeah.
More than he ever lost.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't need to play into their game. He didn't have to do it. I brought up Anderson Silva before. Well documented when he was fighting that guy, Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen was, oh my God, trash talking him to death.
Yeah.
Disrespecting the people of his country.
Right.
Disrespecting everything. But
Anderson Silva had him at a barbecue
100%.
in Brazil.
Exactly. Just recently I saw that.
To make sure
Yeah.
that this guy was looking at the big picture.
Exactly. Anderson Silva, that first fight with him was getting pounded for 4 rounds.
Right.
4 rounds. But he found the mental strength to get him in the last round.
So
At the last minute.
that mental fortitude.
Yes.
When I think about when I was a kid, I was bullied a little bit.
Yeah.
I was very lucky, blessed that I made friends that were like yourself already in karate class, and they had another level of confidence.
Yes.
So if some dude came up to me,
100%.
these guys would be around me,
Yeah.
and man, I never really had to defend myself. I had lucky to have friends around me.
I believe it, and I tell this to my students all the time. I was never picked on as a kid. And it wasn't because the world knew who I was and who my father was. To be honest with you, I used to tell nobody. Though in high school, I had won a state tournament, and St. Francis Prep decided to do an article about me. That is when people found out I did martial arts. Even my closest friends.
But you were carrying yourself.
I carried myself. I was always taught as a child, your demeanor is everything.
Right.
Learn how to look at people in the eyes. Don't walk around with your head down. You walk around proud. You walk around your chest up. These are all things my father taught me. And I'm not the biggest dude. I'm still small.
But that's
It's the presence you have. And it's not an ego. it's not a cockiness.
Right.
No, it's
Well, this is the fine line between confidence and arrogance.
yes,
And
100%.
you got to teeter.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the experience I've found through physical fitness training, especially at F45, where it's not inexpensive to go there.
Mm-hmm.
So you've already got a filter. The people that are signing up for F45, they really mean to be there.
Sure.
And if you look around, you'll often find people that are working out elsewhere doing this is just part of their physical
Yeah, it's
fitness.
part of it.
And it's
Part
pretty
of it.
intense.
Yeah.
You know, for me, F45 was like a fast track forward. Like I had the individual components, but now I have a place for it to coalesce
Sure.
and put it into action and
Sure.
then reprogram myself to be the best version of me that I've been trying to do inefficiently. So here I am, I'm in the lab, come back out, and I'm ready to go, and then go back to the lab, do it again. You have the experience of teaching students, teaching adults. You have put yourself as a student.
Mm-hmm.
What's the hardest part of being a student while the arrogance and the confidence are always there, but you as a student
The hardest,
got to make sure that the arrogance doesn't come in the way.
Yeah. The hardest part for me is we get older. And physically, we don't recover as quick as we used to. And my mindset is that I'm such a competitor that if I can't do something, it kills me. That's my hardest part. I want to win. I want to win the workout. I did a challenge a month back. At 45, did a challenge, and I went to it.
You talking about that day playoff?
Mm-hmm.
You did it.
I did it.
How'd you do?
I did well from all accounts, but I didn't win.
Wow.
And that I take that and it motivates me to do better.
That's 10 minutes of just
it was tough. I'm not gonna lie, it was tough. And I knew where I made the mistake. I went too hard, too fast.
On the roller?
I hit that rower and I hit the bench, the hop over.
Yeah.
And I was killing it. And then I went to the TRX bands for the push-ups. I'm like, wow, I messed up. You know? But
so there's a science to everything.
But I pushed through it. I knew I did well, but I knew I didn't win. And the person who won was much younger than me, and yeah, I get jealous. Because like I said, I'm a competitor. I still compete. But I have to be realistic. And this is where I'm a student first, not a master. I'm a student. I have to learn. So I know the next time I do that challenge, granted I might not win, because the guy who won is in phenomenal shape. And I love when I get to partner with him because it motivates me and pushes me. And then watching the trainers do it. And the one trainer killed it. Oh, he was awesome.
Caleb?
Oh man, push-up machine.
He's a beast.
And I look at that, I'm like, man, I want to do that. But then I also have to be realistic. I'm like, damn, I'm 42.
So let me tell you an interesting story of how sneaky the ego is.
Yeah.
All right. So I have no right to go into a gym. Thank you. And ever think like, or what's that guy doing here? Or what's he gonna teach me? I go in there and I'm just like super excited to just be part of the gym. But anytime they have a new face there in the coaching team, you can't help but notice like, oh, there's a new person here.
Yeah.
You size them up and you just kind of like
of
move
course.
on. All right, so Caleb, first time I see Caleb, he's holding a clipboard.
Yeah.
And man, like he hides that strength.
Oh yeah.
Really well. He
Yeah.
looked like a high school kid to me.
Yeah.
And he's 21, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, and he was really shy and like, well, you're not shy, quiet and reserved in that first few days that I saw him. and come around and try to kind of learn the F45 way, which is like the kind of hey, you can do it, and then he was kind of rah-rahing, and I remember thinking to myself, I've never told him this. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, who is this? How old is this kid? Like, is he someone's son? What's he doing here? Like, almost questioning he doesn't look like. Frank started around the same time as Caleb. I was like, this guy doesn't look anything like Frank.
Sure, Frank is different. Frank's got tree trunks for legs.
He's a dick.
He's
they're the same age.
Yeah, he's
born the same year.
Physically, appearance-wise, fits the role.
Right.
Let's just say what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Obviously, when people walk inside my school, they see me in my uniform. They see how it looks proper. They that's a master.
Right.
So appearance is important.
Sure.
And I totally get what you're saying.
But it only took him to do those push-ups.
Exactly.
I saw him do push-ups in class once.
Yeah.
And how quick he was going up and down.
Yeah.
After that, I was like, wow. And so the ego inside me, because Uday, you've done 300 classes. You're a big guy. Uday. You stay right there, and the ego is a tricky little guy that will sneak in
100%
when you're not looking. So
my ego kicked into that challenge.
Yeah,
100% kicked into that challenge.
So how much of that do you face? Let's say with your students who are maturing, getting better, and they go from where they were to where they are, and then you see some of that Cobra Kai, right? Like in that cinema world, you see the hero teeters off onto the villainous side and he has to be reclaimed. Yeah. That's always the ego.
Yeah, it is. But the older I'm getting, maybe not so much when I was teaching when I was younger, like in my 20s. But this was always a lesson my father taught me. Your priority as a true, quote unquote, master instructor is to make your students better than you and better than you'll ever be. Because we talk about stories, how you brought up earlier in this conversation. Stories last a lifetime because of legacy. I can't do this forever. Mentally I could, not physically. I don't kick as fast as I used to. I try my best. I don't kick as hard as I used to. My left hip, I know one day it's gonna go on me, But if I could instill my knowledge into my students, I want them to be better than me, because that's how my story is going to live. Because they're gonna get so much better than me that they're gonna teach someone else, and that person's gonna teach someone else. So this isn't really my legacy. I'm passing on my father. I'm passing on my grandmaster, Sun Lee. I'm passing this all on. And this is how the story doesn't die. It lives forever. So I want my students to be better than me. So if I were ever to give a word of encouragement to any young fitness instructor out there, your goal is to make your student or your athlete better than you. And that's how this survives. Right. That's how something like let's say F45. That's how, because we all know gyms come and go, just like martial arts schools, they come and go. Yeah. Some people call it fads.
Yeah.
No, you got to make your students better than you'll ever be.
Right.
And embrace that and appreciate that. That's how you're going to survive.
Right.
And that's how you end up making the exercise more difficult. Because now you're able to push that person.
Well, that's the biggest thing that I got out of, I think, learning how quickly the limitations that I was putting on myself, and then breaking through those barriers was addicting.
Of course.
And wanting the next barrier. Couldn't wait.
It is the best feeling in the world to conquer the day, to conquer the moment. That is why I still compete.
Yeah.
People think I'm crazy. competing at my age.
You talk to me about that. So how many times a year are you in a competition?
Well, I got back into competition in 2019. There was actually a 17-year break from competing.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
you're welcome. There was a bit of a break from competition, and then, I made actually, a lot of people don't realize this. You go look at my social media. My mind was on the school for the first 8.5 years of the business. It was focused on the school. It was focused on my family. And physically, I kind of let myself go. I got up to 250 pounds.
Wow. Tell us how much do you weigh now?
Oh, I'm 175 pounds.
You're carrying some extra weight.
Yeah. I was 250. And my daughter was just born. And she was colicky the first 3 months. So my sleeping was bad. And now I'm starting to lose patience when I'm teaching. And during that time, I was coaching my athletes, and we had national championships in Salt Lake City, Utah. It was almost 2 weeks straight of coaching every day, eating poorly, sleeping poorly. I was letting dramas that were happening really affect me physically. I got back, and I'll never forget what happened. My son said something to me. My son was 4 at the time. And I lost patience with him. At that moment, I knew, I was like, I need to make a change. And it has to be now. No if, no buts, no maybes, no this. And I dove into personal fitness and personal mindset, and I fixed my eating habits. I eliminated all the things I love. To put it like, I became the anti-Italian. No more pasta, no more bread, and I really put the blinders on. I really put on that tunnel vision. And now next thing I knew, I started losing weight. I started losing weight rapidly. And now I had the energy to work back out. And then I started losing so much weight and started feeling good, and I started seeing techniques flow out of my body that hadn't flowed in years. I had brought in he's my big brother, and growing up, he was basically my Taekwondo idol, Peter Bardatzos. I had brought him on board to be the competition team coach, and he looked at me one day and he's like, Joe, man, why don't you compete again? There's an executive division, an ultra division, a master's division, which is 33 years old and up. And I was like, you know what? Why not? And the business, I thought of it. I was like, I preach all about leadership by example. I'm teaching these kids how to fight. I'm teaching these kids how to compete. What's better than having their own master go back into competition? And I did it. And I like I said in the documentary, I saw success. I started making the podium right away. Next thing you know, I'm competing in Italy. I'm competing around the tri-state area again. I'm going to nationals. I'm winning at nationals. A year later, I go to the U.S. Open and I make the U.S. national team in my division. And I'm like, wow, what better example to give the students than their own master still competes. And now it's become a part of my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Now I cut weight.
Right. Which isn't easy.
It's not easy. The older we get, it's not easy to cut weight.
That's a brutal exercise.
It's brutal. My kids want Carvel.
Right.
I'm not going to take them to get Carvel because I can't eat that ice cream.
So it's happening in front of you.
It's happening in front of me. Mental, physical discipline.
Right.
My
physical leading the mind.
Exactly. My daughter loves pasta. My son wants that sandwich. He wants. I'm not gonna give it to them. Of course, I'm gonna give it to them.
So what are you afraid of?
My fears?
Just one.
My biggest fear is failure. As a person, as a businessman, as a family man, as an athlete, my biggest fear is failure, but not failure to win. No. To make it on that mat, I've already won. Not failure to win a gold. No. I don't, it's not the medal. Failure not to be able to perform at the best of my ability. That's what I fear. And I won't allow that to happen. I want to be the best version of me, whether I'm on that mat, whether I'm home, whether I step into that ring, or I'm in that class at 5 o'clock in the morning. I need to be the best version of me. And if I feel I am not, that's what upsets me.
When we were talking earlier, we touched on bullying.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that's obviously more well spoken about now.
Yes.
In those movies that we talked about, oftentimes Taekwondo or martial arts is the solution that the parent uses to put the kid that's being bullied. How realistic is that? As a solution to bullying?
No, it definitely is realistic. I definitely have parents that talk to me, and I've actually, for many years, I actually used to go around to many schools and teach anti-bullying. You have to understand that bullying is different than it was when we were growing up. How so? Bullying required courage back in the day. In what sense? You had to physically go up to that kid and curse them out or make fun of them. You had to physically, as you see in the movies, take that food tray and slap it on the floor or push that kid into a locker. Bullying required courage. And it was easier to bring that child back in the day and say, my kid's being bullied, and teaching that child how to stand up for themselves. Not always through physicality. We don't teach what we learn inside the Taekwondo school outside, but we teach them to be confident in themselves, in their demeanor, in their actions. That's always the first step to self-defense. It's not what Hollywood shows. The first step to self-defense is how you portray yourself, making that person second guess, oh man, I am messing with this guy. Nowadays, and we touched upon it before, social media, the internet makes it very tricky, because now the bully is a coward. Now the bully is a keyboard warrior. Now the bully could hide behind a silhouette or a fake name or fake picture and attempt to ruin someone's life. That is what makes it more difficult. That is what makes my job harder, which I embrace. I embrace when things are tough. My father always taught me, don't take the easy road, take the hard road. So when that's brought up to me, now I have to take it a notch above and really turn that kid into someone confident and someone positive that they could just block out that negativity on social media.
Right.
That they could just, that's great. I don't care. I'm not going to read that.
Right.
That mass text message that went around the entire school, calling you names, calling you this, saying that you're this, saying that you're that. Oh yeah, they said that about me? That's good.
Well, what's surprising is, so you have a dichotomy now. You have the bullying that is direct messaging, and you know, maybe behind the keyboard and
cyber.
But then you have the other not bullying, but you have the other stigma that youngsters face now, which is this fear of missing out.
Mm-hmm.
This message that maybe went across to everyone, and maybe someone left you off because of a legitimate reason,
But now because you didn't get it, you are filled with this sense of.
Yes.
So
Why am I not included?
the technique, the science of martial arts, it's applicable now, but before you were going to use it. You were going to use the
100%.
technique, and someone was going to be aggressive and fight you, and you were going to be able to defend yourself at least and hold your own.
Yes.
And earn the respect of the bully.
How many times back in the day did guys get into fights, and the next thing you knew they were buddies because they let it out, and there was that mutual respect.
It's so true.
Unfortunately, now it doesn't get to that point.
It doesn't get to that point.
It doesn't get to that point
But
because there's too many, as I said, keyboard warriors, and I've even encountered it in business.
So what's one thing better than, and this is, what's one thing that you can come up with as a viable alternative to martial arts? Putting your kid in martial arts, or even, for me as a corporate person, I would wanna deploy, have one day of martial arts, do F45. Like I envision what type of physical fitness program I'm gonna be doing, let's say in 2023, because come May of 2023, I'll be 2 years F45. So I've already started incorporating, all right, I'm gonna start going to a gym independently, start doing my own workout to elevate that game.
Sure.
Then maybe take on some other type of activity. But all this is really to kind of continue building myself. If I'm building a company, I'm building a corporate environment, a culture from the ground up.
Sure.
And it has to start from me. Like my idea is I'll have a building. Maybe it's big building, small building, but there's going to be a physical fitness area in there. And the culture has to. I don't care what I'm selling. I don't care what I'm doing. So as a person, there's nothing that I can't get from the training. It's going to make me a better businessman, a better negotiator. Heck, even my posturing at a negotiation or a sale, maybe it gets me more money. It's more profitable. What are the alternatives to mixed martial arts that someone can use to help enhance their training? Or is this the best thing out there?
No. You have to, as a person, find what makes you happy. You have to be selfish. You have to dedicate. I'm very big on you have to dedicate time to yourself a day. Minus the work, family, children. You have to dedicate something to yourself once a day. You have to, whether it is martial arts, whether it is a sport, whether it is a hobby, because giving yourself that moment a day will make you happy, will make you feel good about yourself. We brought it up. Again, we'll go back to F45. Man, it sucks waking up in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, especially when it's cold out. But you know what? You leave good. You leave feeling good about yourself. And throughout your day, I feel, man, thank God I woke up.
Yeah.
I accomplished something. So whether it's a martial art, whether it's a physical exercise, you need to find, and that's sometimes difficult for some people,
Right.
to find something for yourself. You have to be selfish.
From your
In that
experience, what role does mixed martial arts play in youngsters staying away from abusing drugs and alcohol in their life?
If you're in the right martial arts school, the right Taekwondo school, and you have the right instructor. Me as a kid growing up, maybe I'm different because my father was my teacher. Man, I didn't have time for nonsense. I had no time.
You were busy.
I was too busy. I was too busy as a high school kid in my father's school, practicing Taekwondo, competing. I didn't have time to go to the keg at Cunningham Park. I didn't have time to go to the teen nightclub on Bell Boulevard. I didn't have time for that. Did I as I got older? Of course, we're young. But I could honestly say I didn't have time to get involved in nonsense. And my father taught me at a young age, surround yourself around like-minded individuals. So a big reason why I wasn't getting involved in nonsense, because my friends weren't either. My friends would be like, if we had time to kill, yo, let's go grab that basketball, let's go to Bayside High. Yo, let's go get that soccer ball, let's go shoot it. Yo, can you open up the doors to your father's school? Let's go kick some paddles. Those were the type of people I surrounded myself around with. So, because that was instilled in my brain, surround yourself around like-minded individuals, and I still keep that to this day. My greatest friends to this day, I share the martial arts mat with them. This is who we are. Surround yourself around people that are like you, and you don't fall into nonsense. Like I said, don't get me wrong, I'm no angel. We've all made our mistakes.
Not yet.
You know? But knock on wood, God bless. I never got into, you know, harmful things physically to put into my body or to do things outside. You know, my parents are blessed. They never had to get that phone call to pick me up from the precinct. You know, they never got that because, man, I was too tired.
Yeah.
Or I was too busy.
Right.
You know, I was doing something positive with myself. So I never fell into that. And now, like I said, I brought up that story the day I got my black belt and the time before that I actually hated going to class. Now I thank my mom for being like, wow, now I understand why you made me go to the school when I didn't want to go. Now I understood why my dad beat me with that stick. I get it now.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get into nonsense. I didn't get into trouble.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. So I'm grateful for it. I appreciate it.
What role does God, religion, faith, with your culture and your upbringing, and obviously being immigrant parents, of immigrant parents, I also of immigrant parents, what role does that have in your life today and growing up?
I won't lie. Am I the most religious person on earth? I'm not. Of course, I believe in God. Of course, I believe in. I was brought up with. Give me 1 second.
Oh, you're fine.
I was brought up with. Obviously, right now we're sitting here in my family's restaurant. I was brought up with. Religion is at the dinner table. Family being together. I was brought up with be a good person. Just that, and this comes from my mother, who back in the old country grew up on a street that was on the same block as the monastery where the nuns were. Yes, I went to Catholic school growing up. I went to private school, elementary and high school. So God was always a part of my life. Have I questioned my faith in God with things that have happened in my life? I have, to this day. This past weekend was 10 years my father's passed, and my father, the way he passed was very tragic. It was very out of the blue. You know, he wasn't sick. He was just taken from me. That's it. He was gone in an instant. The day before, he was actually teaching a class in my school, and he was gone. So for the past 10 years, it's been a bitter pill to swallow. I question God. I go, why do you need him more than I need him? You know, so that's something that I have to deal with myself. I do question why. But I keep the faith. in what I teach my children, and it's just about being a good person. You know, no matter what religion we come from, whether we're Catholic, we're Buddhist, we're Muslim, we're Christian, we're Hindu, we're Jewish, whatever religion or faith or how we perceive the higher being, we just need to be good people. Because, like I brought up martial arts, all martial arts is good for us when it's taught the right way. So is religion. All religion is good for us when it is taught the right way. So I'm never going to veer from that. But like I said, like anyone, we have our doubts, we have our questions and whatnot. And I guess it's part of being a student, right?
Exactly, the seeker.
That's part of being a student. That's why I say I'm a student before I'm a master.
Yeah.
So right now, at this point in my life, like I just explained over the past 10 years, you know, and I question it, I'm being a student.
Right.
I'm being a student. But but does that mean because I question it, does that mean I'm going to veer and now forget you, I'm going to be bad? Or I'm going to lash out in a negative way? No, I'm not going to do that. Because I was brought up at that dinner table. I was brought up, this is religion. This is how we're good outside. This is where the faith starts. So yeah, that's where I am spiritually. That's where I am in a religious standpoint. Just be a good person, man.
Yeah.
It takes, and this is what blows my mind. It takes more effort to do wrong than it does to do good, I believe. Like, you have to take effort. I'm sorry, excuse the language. It takes effort to be an asshole. And if it doesn't take effort to be an asshole, you better reconsider what you're doing in life.
Well, that's interesting.
It's easier to be good, I feel.
I mean, I think what I've learned from just listening to you and just other athletic people who know what it feels like to train and deal with that frustration of physical limitation, and then building mental strength to overcome that. Those people, they don't tend to look for trouble because they're so busy and preoccupied with building themselves, building the temple of their body. They're so good
body and mind,
they're so good to themselves, that they'll actually be good to others.
100%.
And so that feeds it. So, you know, however many times you meet students, you're always posed with the potential that someone might be a wild card, but the system is stronger than anything. And so, you know, as a religious belief that being good first, being a good human being, using martial arts, any martial arts, as a form of defense.
Yes.
Right? Not an offensive, aggressive
No.
way. It's a way to actually take care of yourself.
Exactly.
All of that being said and done, if someone were to come to you and say, hey, you know, this isn't working for me, whatever, and they give up on, what's the likelihood that whatever seeds were planted in the training, that resurfaces later in their life?
It's happened many times. I've had many students throughout the years that stop training for whatever reason and then come back and tell me, you know, Master Joe, the biggest mistake I made was quitting, but now I want to come back. I've had the pleasure, and it's almost the honor, of teaching students that were students of my dad and now teaching their children, and they understand it. When you plant that, as you put that good seed's never going to die.
Yeah.
And that's why the initial moment you walk inside my school, that is the most important day for me, because you might not ever get that chance again. You got to plant that good seed into that kid, into that adult, into that student. Let them realize that they're walking into a special place. So even if they veer from it, you're always going to come back to it. You just asked me about my faith. Yeah, the past 10 years, I might have gone astray a little bit, but I'm never going to stop being a good person.
Right.
I'm always going to come back to it. You plant that good martial arts seed in someone, or work ethic seed, or respect, or discipline, you're always going to come back to it. You know, and we don't need to get biblical, but there's so many passages that sound like that.
Yeah. Well,
You know, you stray away, but then you always come back.
So we started on storytelling, and
Yeah.
I thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
I don't want to take too much more of it. I know we're going to be coming up on 2 hours. So
Holy cow! I love it.
It's going to be 2 o'clock soon. So
That's awesome.
so awesome talking to you, and I know where you are, so I can always catch up with you another time.
Oh, this is awesome.
But this is beyond what this conversation is. Exactly what I wanted to do. So let me be open with you. I've been dealing with the trouble of doing a podcast where I'm visible on the screen. This is the first time I'm doing it where it's just going to be audio. And this is really what I want. Like, I want to be, just as I am the student in the F45 class, where my mind is separate from my body.
Sure.
And when my body gets tired, my mind is telling. Actually, I don't know which way it goes anymore. But at the beginning, my body wanted to quit.
Yeah.
And I need my mind to be strong. Now my body is capable of actually telling my mind, "Hey, shut up! I got this."
Exactly.
It's really strange.
Yes. No. But that's the balance. That's the balance. That's that balance. You need to. We talk about in any martial art, mind, body, spirit. We have to put that all into one. We find that balance, and now you find your spiritual, your mental, and your physical all working together.
Yeah.
And you know what? Sometimes fighting each other.
Yes.
Sometimes fighting each other.
Keeping the elasticity.
Exactly. Again, I'm doing that challenge. My mind is saying, Joe, you got this. But my body's like, man, you're 42 years old, man. You got to calm down. And then it's all happening all at once. So you got to find that balance, like I said. Now I know. Next time I go, I'm not going to burn out in the beginning. I'm going to pace myself. A lot of times I'll be in that competition and I'll be like, man, I gave up that point. Maybe I was trying way too, there's always going to be that. You got to find that unity, but then sometimes you're going to fight with each other.
Yeah.
But you always come back to that one spot.
Well, it was at the
it's
gym.
A constant.
It was at the gym that I learned how to be kinder to myself.
Yeah.
And what that means is, if I didn't get to the goal that I set, I was much more forgiving that I didn't hit the goal. And I was much more critical of, hey, did I put my effort? So the heart rate monitor for me, I look at it.
Yes.
And I look at, okay, how did I end? Right before my last set, where was my heart rate? And when I'm most tired, what did I do? And I try to make sure that
exactly
is higher. Because I know how I felt, because I just lived it. And I look at it, I get that report in 10 minutes. I'm like, all right, whatever this means that when I was most tired, I was exerting more energy. And that's all I know. All right, Uday, you've got it in you. Put the effort out. So when it came to this podcast, I've been feeling like it's not doing what I want it to do. People are like, oh, Uday, it's great, it's good, do it. And I'm just like, but I have my own standard, what I want to achieve out of it. And so I haven't quit. I've been talking to people once a month or 2 people a month since March of last year.
Wow.
And I've only posted 7.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm so critical of myself. But I'm still showing up. I'm still doing it. I'm waiting until I get to my standard, and I'll publish what I'm comfortable with. And this is where I never had the compassion to keep doing it. I would have been like, no, I suck.
Yeah.
Forget this. Forget what the supporters say. They're just, no, I made myself the subject of this experiment that says, as long as you don't quit, you'll get better.
Yeah.
And I'm living that life almost as if you got a 8-year-old kid. Like, I would love to have been your student at 8. You, 42-year-old Joe, I would love to have met you when I was 8.
Yeah.
And I would love to have seen what I would have become.
Sure.
But I can still do it now.
Of course you can.
That's what.
Of course you can.
That's what this is about.
Of course you can.
So my buddies who are in their 40s, who have 3 kids, who are living a manic lifestyle and crushing it. Okay.
highly functional, neurotic people.
Yeah.
This is just because we've been raised to get shit done.
Yes.
And so these are the people that are around me.
Mm-hmm.
And we're actually the reason why we don't know how to do it better, because we're all highly functional, neurotic people.
Yes.
And then we need one person in our group to kind of say, hey, let's clean up our act for the next 20 years. So we still crush it.
Yes.
But let's live a really good, healthy life.
Mm-hmm.
So we get the interest on the interest.
Yes.
Right? The experiences that have yet to have been
Mm-hmm.
fulfilled from our kids or grandkids, whatever.
Yeah.
Or travel, whatever. Our time with our wives and our husbands, and just let's go live that greatest life the moment we realize we can. And so being able to talk to you for 2 hours on an audio, I haven't looked at my face. Like when I'm on a Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
I see my face somewhere in a corner. I try to minimize my screen, and it's just, it made me neurotic about like, hey, why do you do these things? Why are you moving your hands? Why? And that self-criticism was tearing me down my whole life.
Mm.
And I got away. And then during COVID, it was all Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't want any part of this.
Yeah.
I
hear you.
I checked out, man.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm learning that was all an experience to make me better, to get me closer to where I'm supposed to go.
Flip the negative into a positive.
I needed it.
Yeah.
And so talking to you right now, I want to ask you one question, and then we'll wrap it up. However many obstacles you faced, and I know your dad's loss is definitely going to be up there, but from not from your family experiences, but like either friends or what was the most frustrating or difficult experience that you faced where you couldn't change the consequence, and it just you couldn't let it go, or you couldn't get the result you wanted, and even to this day you're holding on to something you wish you could have done something about it. I don't want to say regret. You don't seem like a man that has many regrets.
No.
But we're human.
Of course we're human.
And there'll always be something, or maybe there isn't.
Wow. That's a good question. That's really got me thinking.
Well, that's okay. We can save it for another day, because you're
such
a strong guy, bro. Like when I see you, or like I'm signing up for your class before we leave, because like I know what my journey is.
Yeah.
I know what path I'm supposed to be on, and I need to. And I've been feeling it with F45 lately, where it's not easier. It's not easier, not at all. But I want something more, not different. I want something in addition. Just to wake up who's here now. The Uday that was, I've done 310, 15 classes, I don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
But the Uday that's been building up to take on a new challenge, this guy never would have done it. Like a year and a half ago, there's no way in the world I'm thinking, let me go into a studio, let me start doing Taekwondo. But that like-minded, we're in an era where we have to find like-minded people. We can find them in remote areas, we can use social media.
Sure.
But nothing beats in person. We're from Queens. We know what it's like I grew up in an apartment building, so I had buddies in the building. Rainy day, doesn't matter. Just got friends in the building, built in. You run into them in the elevator, play outside, you ride your bike, you fight with someone, play with the next day. A simple life. And I dealt with bullying in a very resourceful way. I learned that I could make friends, and those friends will protect me, and it served me well. But now at this stage in my life, I realized that those friends that were there to protect me, they themselves were different. Like I had bullies that were my friends, but they were like the good bullies. Mm-hmm. They were the bullies that were like I had a buddy. This is a great story, and then I'll kind of just share it with you because his name was Raymond Cruz. Lost touch with him. He had been sent to live with his uncle and aunt in Flushing from Miami, Florida. Wow. Tough kid, man. This kid was left back twice. So he was a little bigger and older. So we're probably like in 7th grade, so he should have been in 9th grade. So you can imagine at that time, right? Like, a 14-year-old with a 12-year-old.
Exactly.
But the kid was fearless. But you know who was more fearless? His older cousin's sister. So a couple of, there was 3 guys that were they were talking smack to me, and then I had a big mouth. I was on my bike. When I wasn't on my bike, I was running. So I'm running around the block. They're chasing me, and whatever. They actually were martial arts students, so
Oh, wow.
they were gonna do a job on me.
Cobra Kai.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'm running. Ray sees me. Ray's sitting there. His cousin's there. Ray's like, "Hey, what are you running from?" I'm like pointing. He's like, "Sit down." He sits me down in the chair that he was sitting in. Like this is like straight up Queens, right? Like you're just sitting on a lawn chair, like, just sitting there. He sits me down. I'm like, he's like, "Don't worry about it." So then Ray looks at the guys. He's like, "Nah, these guys they're too easy for me." So he sends his cousin, his sister,
Wow.
and she berated them, made them apologize to me, and you never saw like these guys took their tail between their legs and they walked away.
100%.
Never bothered me ever again. And by the way, his cousin was a really really pretty girl, so I couldn't even talk to her. Like I was like, oh man, I was too shy, I was too quiet.
Exactly,
I was like, thank you
exactly.
very much. I'm gonna get out of here now.
Yeah.
But how does that happen, right? Like how does that happen? I look back and I realized I helped him on his science project. That was it. He told, like, he was like, "Yo, dude, you know, I'm new to school. This is the bully. The kid, he was a bully because he had been shipped around so
Sure.
many schools
Sure.
that he never had a friend for more than 1 year.
Yeah.
So I got to know him, and I'm like, looking back on it, I'm like, he must have been misunderstood everywhere he went.
Everywhere.
And everyone wrote him off.
But the first person that showed him a little bit of humanity, he stood up for him.
And I got lucky.
Yeah.
But my dad taught me, like, hey, if someone needs help, you help them.
100%.
Knowledge is not yours. Knowledge is to be shared.
Exactly.
It's a very key principle.
100%.
And so I'm so excited about starting a new adventure, physical fitness, but really the mental side of it, because I still have a long way to go, like we all do. The more I remind myself that I have a lot of work to do, the more I remember, hey, be grateful for what you've learned, but keep going.
Yeah.
Just keep going. And I felt like maybe, like this morning I went to the gym, but the 6:15 class, normally I'm up by 5:30. Today I was up at 6.
Yeah.
It slipped. Like, I mean, I got to my class, but like that 30 minutes,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm slipping. And Mondays, like I'm there. So things like that are what compel me to have these conversations
Sure.
and publish it and then put it in front of people that are in their 40s
Yeah.
who really don't realize how easy it is to just start something and then
Yep.
redefine your life. Because if I'm not here, if I don't do physical fitness training when I started, I'm probably the same weight. I'm actually heavier right now, but I'm down 7.5% body fat.
Sure.
From
Muscle weighs
May
more
of
than
last
fat.
year.
Yeah.
But that 7.5% body, I just cleared out my I'm going to India soon. I'm taking a whole bunch of my old clothes, which I tried on yesterday, and it was a good comedy show for my wife.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just looks so big.
Yeah.
You know what it looked like? I told my wife what I'm gonna be for Halloween. I'm gonna be little Uday, dressed up
That's Big Uday.
as big Uday, because my clothes are so big. It looks like I'm wearing my dad's clothes.
Exactly, I get
so,
it.
And I'm like, you get it.
I
Man. My
get it.
kids
Oh,
didn't
you
get
have
it.
to tell
My kids
me.
are like, what are you talking about? I'm like,
I still have a closet full of 4-year-old clothes that I'll never touch again.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what my wife told me. So I had this suit. I bought this suit a long time ago. I was a kid. I bought it from India, $100, a black suit,
Yeah.
like perfectly black.
Yeah.
Normally you wear that to a funeral, but this was like a power suit on an interview. I wore that suit to so many interviews because it just fit perfect.
Yeah.
It was just perfect.
Yeah.
And if I put it on yesterday and I look like a clown. And I'm like, oh, but it has sentimental value. And she looked at me, she's like, if you see that suit, you'll fit into it again. Get rid of it. Like you don't need to fit into it. And then she was looking at me and she's just like, you can keep that one if you want. Get rid of the other ones. So I kept that one, got rid of all the other clothes, and I can't believe how many clothes
Sure.
that just going to F45 on schedule, not missing a class, eating better but not great. I'm still, Indian food, Italian food, like we're talking about like heavy meals.
Exactly.
At the wrong time of the day.
Yeah.
Right? Heavy
Always.
dinners, So all that being said, I'm better now and I'm in a position to meet people like yourself. I don't meet you unless you go to that gym, right? Even though, we probably could have crossed paths.
Sure.
But I never would have even been interested. But I remember seeing you work out and what you spoke about, your boundaries, your barriers, you're facing that same challenge in that gym at 45 as I am. Just that we're at different levels.
100%.
But when you're hitting that threshold and I'm hitting that threshold, we got the same look on our face. Or we should. And when I see you gutting it out, I'm like, this guy's gutting it out. So I have no excuse not to. I have more reason to.
Yes.
And so all that perspective kicks in, and now suddenly I'm on a phone and I don't close a deal, I have so much muscle memory. I'm like, this is just like a rep that I couldn't finish.
Exactly.
But guess what? I'm gonna go at it again.
And you're able to cope with it. You're able to adapt. You're able to push through it.
And I don't self-criticize.
Exactly.
I made the call. I did the work.
It's not the end of the world.
And I can't believe at this stage of my life with 3 kids, how much responsibility was on me and how unprepared I was for that responsibility. Like I said, I was a functional dad. I was a checklist good dad. But I was missing those fine details. Like they were probably looking at my coping, different mannerisms, or maybe like just, and that would not have set into motion good things. Now they see like, oh, Papa changed the way he was dealing with things, and now it's better.
Yes.
This is probably more important to my legacy to them, that they saw me failing and learn how to put myself back on course. So my goal is to get myself signed up, and then I'll get my kids signed up, and I want them to want to do it. But I know that I play softball. They come watch me play softball, and now they want to play softball. So it's really nice that they just want to be involved with what I do, and like I said, Joe, meeting you, being able to talk to you, and just have this conversation, it's been superb. I thank you so much for your time, your generosity.
I appreciate it, and hopefully I could definitely answer that question you asked me.
Yeah,
it's just
it's a hard.
It's
thing.
a good question. It's a good question, and I really appreciate everything you're talking about. I definitely see the correlation between what we passed, what we're going through, and I feel like what you're doing right now kind of coincides with what I said about myself. We're students first, and we're always learning, and knowledge is power.
You saw Ty, he launched his own podcast, and he had Rafi on as his first guest, and I'm pretty sure he's going to probably call you at some point. And I think like that's the best thing about this era that we're in. Yeah. That we
learn from each other.
Yeah.
We don't know everything, and I will never oppose. That's why you've heard me say in this conversation, quote unquote, master. No. I'm Joe before I'm Master Joe. Yes, I've earned the title of a Taekwondo master through my degrees on my belt and my experience and what I put into the art. But again, we're always students first, and knowledge is power, and we all can learn from each other. And I tell my students, and I'll tell a 5-year-old, I learn as much from you as you learn from me.
I've been telling my kids that.
Yeah,
I told them that I've only got as much experience being your dad as you have being my kid.
Exactly.
Sounds like we're at the same place.
100%. So keeping that in mind, I truly appreciate, and that's why when you said to me that you were doing this and everything, I was like, I jumped around. I didn't hesitate.
Yeah, you were awesome, man. You made it some time for me.
There was no hesitation.
And I'm gonna work. I'm gonna be on a plane tomorrow. I'm gonna be working on this. I'll be in India, and then I'm gonna publish it probably by the end of the week.
Awesome.
Clean it up a little bit. But one last thing, I know I said that before, and I tend to do that a few times. But in Sanatan Dharma, which is the root of Hinduism, Sanatan Dharma means the eternal faith. There's no beginning and there's no end.
Sure.
Humanity. Just take it as what it is, right?
Yes.
Whatever that inner consciousness is, easier to do good than bad.
100%.
That Sanatan Dharma, there's a role of a teacher. It's called guru. And I'm sure you've heard that. We've commercialized gurus. But guru literally means remover. Gu means remover of darkness.
Oh, wow.
Guru, remover of darkness.
Wow.
Remover of ignorance.
Sure.
When you say master, what I hear in my mind is guru. And the guru-shishya student, master-student relationship is critical to the human involvement.
Sure.
The evolving human being.
Yes.
You can't get through life without knowledge, and so the source of that knowledge,
it has to be a source.
Has to be a source. You have to be discerning about who you're going to get the knowledge from, and you have to know about yourself first before you even make yourself available to a teacher. And then, in the tradition of Sanatan Dharma, the master would actually decide whether or not they are an appropriate teacher for that student. And it was like a two-way road. It was almost like a courtship.
Yes.
And so this discerning ability is really, I think, where in this world of gurus, your teachers and your mentors and everyone's showing what they're showing. I think I'm trying to teach my kids how to be more discerning
be more deliberate in just, don't react right away to what you see.
Yes.
Because everything these days is presentation. Dig deeper. Even when you sit with someone, try to get to know them a little bit. Let them get to know you a little bit. And then find the way to either decide, is this going to be someone on that one hand with fingers to spare? Or is it going to be an acquaintance? Or is it going to be a business associate? Who is this person going to be to you? And have that time. And I'm actually learning how to benefit that. I've made my circle smaller. Used to be the guy in the middle of everything with very little time for myself. Now I have so much time for myself, and I'm so grateful for it that very few people can have access to me.
Sure.
And it's not that I'm so important.
No.
But my time is important to me.
Your time is important to you.
For what I'm trying to do.
Yes.
Tomorrow's not guaranteed. So I'm gonna make today work. And spend as much time as I can. I brought some stuff for you. This is just some treats.
Oh, wow.
It's a functional chocolate that I'm working on formulating.
Okay.
So it's a very simple. You're more than welcome to have this bag.
Oh, thank you.
Share it with people.
Man, this is awesome.
There's a QR code on there. It'll tell you a little bit about the main ingredient in there.
Awesome.
But our body, it naturally produces a thing called geranol. It's made in the same pathway that we make cholesterol, and our body makes testosterone. And geranol is the precursor to progesterone in our body. And as we get older, we make less testosterone. So this isn't necessarily going to fill your system with testosterone. You'd have to take the whole bag, and then you'd probably feel an effect. Okay.
All right.
But if you were to take like 6 of those like today at one time, you might have an unexpected erection. Okay. Because there is that cause and effect.
Hey now.
But ultimately, it's going to be available as a fast melt.
Oh, wow.
Right now, it's just really a chocolate, Belgian chocolate. It's really just part of the story to help people talk about it. But what I found was, supplementation, diet, exercise. What we put in our body is important.
Oh, your body is your temple.
And even if you can't clean everything up right away, take small steps.
Sure.
And do things like that. So this was one way of me trying to bring a product to the market, and something that my dad could take, my mom could take. They're in their 70s and their 80s, and they would benefit from the benefit. One of the benefits of this is muscle protein synthesis, and so recovery. I was able to take geranol when I first started at 45, and it was helping me recover.
Wow.
But now, beautiful thing is my body just recovers from good sleep, good rest.
Yes.
I don't eat like after 7. If I have going to work out at 5:15, I'm not eating after 7.
Sure.
Empty stomach, and like working out on that empty stomach. It's just like I'm earning that breakfast I'm about to eat.
Yeah.
So all that stuff being said,
awesome.
Have fun with that.
Thank you.
Give it out to anyone you want.
Appreciate it.
Welcome feedback.
100%.
If you have any questions, I can send you information on it.
Cool.
It's a product that is extracted from the annatto plant. Annatto is actually this plant that people get what we color cheese with.
Okay.
That golden yellow color.
Yes.
Cheese is not usually that color.
I know, it's not.
You know this.
I stay away from it.
Yeah. So
annatto
has up until now been most known for that. But it's comprised of 2 things: vitamin E, tocotrienols, and geranol. And so our body makes it, and this is a long journey. The world is filled with a lot of supplements.
100%.
So I'm making some inroads there.
Yeah.
And soon we'll have a website.
Nice.
Where we're making different things available for sale. But
cool.
Still a long way to go. I'm still learning the retail side of the business. But all of it I know is coming through just meeting people like yourself, individual entrepreneurs. You've done it. 9 years is a huge accomplishment. So 12 years.
12
Congratulations on.
Yeah.
That's right. It was 9 at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah, at the beginning of COVID. 12 now.
12 years. You probably have a nice line of students that have gone on to do amazing things. Probably still incorporating this discipline in their life.
100%.
So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your
Thank
time.
you, and thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
This is great.
Oh, man.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Oh, this is awesome.